Nothing is impossible. Success is never ending, failure is never final. Nothing is impossible. Come on, Dr. Skiller, you're an educated man. How can you say that nothing is impossible? Have you set aside the critical part of your brain? It's been widely reported that I have cut that word impossible out of my dictionary. That's true. I have for more than one reason. To begin with, it is more often than not used flippantly, frivolously, foolishly, and fruitlessly. No, I have not set aside the critical faculties of my brain. It is precisely because I have sharpened and honed these critical faculties that I have declared the word impossible out of bounds. The fact that you don't know how something can be done does not mean you are smart or right to say it's impossible. The fact that experts in the fields it's impossible doesn't mean they are right. I must warn you against the most dangerous and destructive force of earth, the negative thinking expert. Because he's an expert, you will be tempted to listen uncritically, trust him, and quit. Struck out by the authoritative positions he holds, you will tend to believe him without question. Too often we hear through our ears, not through our ears. Herbert Bayer, the 78-year-old artist, architecture, and designer author, gives us a poignant look at what would happen the art of negative thinking expert were to have his way. Here are Herbert's favorite figment, as described by John Dreyfus, Los Angeles Times architecture and design critic. As an efficiency expert once took a step toward his ulcer by attending a performance of Scott's Unfinished Symphony. All 12 violins were playing identical notes. He complained, that seems to be unnecessary duplication. The staff of this section should be drastically cut. Furthermore, the expert peevishly noted the wind sections for oboes often were silent. His solution: fire some of the oboes and spread their work over the whole orchestra. With ingenuity surpassing reason, the efficiency man then observed that playing numerous 30-second notes seems an excessive refinement, and that should be rounded up to the nearest 16th note on Squid's work would be handled by trainees in lower grade orchestras. Warning to this subject, he decided that no useful purpose is served by repeating with horns the passages that have already been handled with strings. If all such redundant passages were eliminated, the concert would be reduced from 2 hours to 20 minutes. Finally, the fellow wrapped his recommendations in a grand justification. If Squid had attended to these matters, he would probably have been able to finish the symphony. A negative thinking expert is someone who is so well informed, trained, and experienced with the subject that if it has never been successfully done before, he will know it and will not hesitate a moment to tell you. He will then, with the authoritative author of a brilliant intellectual snob, enumerate all the real or imaginary reasons why an idea never succeeded, convincing first himself that all of his words are proof positive that the whole notion is unrealistic, beyond credibility, ridiculous, unthinkable, and impossible. Thus, he blocks progress, obstructs development, triples creativity, halts advanced thinking, and delays for months, years, or decades the big breakthroughs. A possibility thinking expert is a person who, when faced with a new concept and knowing that it has never been successfully implemented, is charged with excitement of what he sees as a great opportunity to become a pace-setting pioneer. He is stimulated by the opportunity to discover new solutions to old problems using the knowledge of a new age to make a historical breakthrough. But he is convinced that there will be a way to overcome seemingly insurmountable difficulties by creative powers stimulated to produce amazing results. Using advanced research techniques, he proves that some long accepted causes for past failures were in fact errors of judgments made by intelligent researchers who lack the tools, skills, and related knowledge available in this modern age. So failure is never final. Just because some negative thinking expert says, I can't imagine it, that doesn't mean that someone somewhere, sometime cannot. and will not be able to imagine the unimaginable and amazingly accomplish it. I charge that too often progress has been halted, obstructed, and delayed by persons who use that word impossible. Transplant a human heart, impossible. Put a man on the moon, come on now, impossible. Build an all glass cathedral longer than a football field and make it earthquake proof in California, that's impossible. No, I haven't placed the intellectual rational halt to my brain in reversal or neutral. I simply have lived my life in the 20th century and have seen scientific impossibilities die like caterpillars, only to be born again as possibility butterflies. Beautiful. You may tell me, as of today, there is no known way that could be accomplished. I'll buy that. But that's an intelligent statement, but don't say it's impossible. You may tell me that some new idea is completely unbelievable, absurd, or ludicrous, like doubting Thomas. You won't believe until you have put your finger in the wound of the Christ's hand. Okay, I can understand how you could react that way. But please don't paint yourself into a corner where you may have to eat crow someday. Wherever you do, don't you use the word impossible. Be honest with me. Tell me if you just don't like the idea. It's not your style. Level with me and with yourself. Is your ego clouding your judgment? Maybe there is a cross-cultural conflict going on. Go to the real reasons, but don't use that unintelligent word impossible. You may prove to me that the idea would not be cost-effective. It would be definitely not be profitable. But please tell me how, when, or by whom it might possibly become a break-even venture. And don't try to second guess me. Maybe we will want to do it even if it costs us money. So don't use the word impossible. You may bring me this report. It's been tried and it has failed. I want to know when, where, by whom, and how. Then I'll want to review their work, but don't insult my intelligence by saying it's impossible. You may tell me that the laws as they stand today do not allow this. That's all right. That's smart. I appreciate this, but laws can be changed. So don't tell me it's impossible. If in your mind the idea is immoral or unethical, then that's a different story altogether. Then you can agree. Let's use the word unacceptable, but we won't use that word. Still be an incorrect word, impossible. I was on the third visit to the Peking, China. On earlier trips, I had fallen in love with one of the greatest and treasured in all of China, the famous bronze horse of the Han Dynasty. It has been reproduced in small 6 inches and 12 inches sizes for thousands. I had my heart on having one that was 4 feet long. I would have stand in our church retreat center in Hawaii. It would more than any other art piece I could imagine symbolize the free spirit. All my first refinement pursuits, such a large piece run into negative stone walls, while solid and immovable as the Great Wall. Finally, I went to rob the National Arts and Crafts Department that controlled the original. I was immediately given a one-word answer. You guessed it. And they have learned the word in China too, which is shocking when you see the impossible things that they have done. In history, art, architecture, engineer, well, out came the word Dr. Skiller. What you ask is impossible. Now let me explain what was going on in this authority's mind. The request was unusual and would require special committee approval. That could be difficult and it would be frustrating, and besides, he didn't want the hassle. If clearances were sought and acquired, it would probably take a year to hire a special artist who alone could be interested to make such an official copy. Surely, and this American could not want to wait that long. It could not cost thousands of dollars, and this official is thinking that's more than I can make in 10 years. This American would never spend that much money. So he uttered the word impossible. When I told him I had a wealthy donor who would pay a very high price and pressed him, I began to see how slow but certain change in attitude. Well, it would take maybe 2 years. That's okay. Now, 2 years later, I have it. It stands a symbol of free spirit and inspires pastors and believers who come for renewal. It was possible after all. Down the word impossible. Remember, the subconscious lacks critical intellectual capacities. It takes to believe anything, feel into it, fed into it like a computer. When uttered aloud, the word impossible is devastating in its effect on the subconscious. Thinking stops, progress halts, doors slam out shut. Research comes to the screeching halt. Further experimentation is torpedoed. Projects are abandoned, dreams are discarded, the brightest and the best of the creative brain cells nosedive, clamp up, hide out, cool down and turn off in some dark but safe subterranean corner of the mind. By means of this defensive maneuver, the brain shelters itself against the painful sting of the insulting disappointments, brutal, embarrassing rejections and dashed hopes. Now, let someone utter the magic words. It might be possible. I don't know how or when, but it might be possible. Those stirring words. With the silent appeal of the marshalling trumpet penetrating to the subconscious tributaries of the mind, challenging and calling those proud powers to turn on and turn out, buried dreams are resurrected, sparks of fresh enthusiasm flicker, then burst into new flame. Table motions are brought back to the floor, the dusty files are reopened, lives go on again in the long darkened laboratories, telephones start ringing, computers light up, new budgets are revised and adopted, help wanted signs are hung out, factories are retooled and reopened, new projects appear, new markets open, the recession ends, a great new era of adventure, experimentation, expansion and prosperity is born, you say. But Dr. Skinner, you are squabbling about words and answer emphatically, not so. I'm not quibbling. I'm waging war on dangerous, irresponsible, destructive forces that are released by seemingly intelligent and innocent remarks. The real issue is attitude. Let someone get by with a judgment that something is impossible and a negative attitude toward progress, upward development, and creative breakthroughs will merge. No, let's scratch the word out of our vocabulary. A cruel and insensitive critic once challenged me on Macrocell to spread the idea that nothing is impossible. It was a cynic out of the worst. He heard about my daughter's accident after which her left leg was amputated through the knee. Anything is possible. Come on, Skrilla. You can't grow a new leg. That's impossible. Please don't use that word. You may live to see the day when the brain dead person's heart, liver, eyes, yes, even legs are transplanted. Impossible, you bet it is not in my dictionary. That's because impossible is a dangerous word. Impossible, the word of the destructive power of an emotional thermonuclear bomb. Impossible, that word is a knife thrust at the heart of the creativity. Impossible, that word is a roadblock to progress. Let's unmask the word. You need to label these impossibilities correctly. They may be more honestly called prejudices, challenges, problems to be solved, blind spots, fatigue, ignorance, fear, excuses, ego problems, laziness, all these impossibilities. By these right names, fears, they are taking over leadership in our thought processes. They are stubborn mental fences built by ignorance, a factory of intolerance. Strip the mask from those, it's impossible, and what do you find? A partial perception which produces illusion, which in turn produces confusion. So let's expose these impossibilities for what they really are. Check, double check, recheck your list of impossibilities before you give in to them. It's not impossible. I just have to revise my plan, rearrange my priorities, remodel my blueprint, redesign my strategy, relocate my power center, recheck my traditional answers, get out of my rut. It's not impossible. I just don't know how to do it. I don't know anyone who does. I simply need to connect with smarter people. I must find someone who can invent new instruments and develop new procedures. It's not impossible. I just have to solve some problems. I have to make some tough decisions. I need to set new goals. I may need to ask hostile persons for help. Am I prepared to turn my competitors into partners and my enemies into friends? It's not impossible. I just need more time. I will take longer than I planned. I may have to cancel appointments to make more time. I'll have to streamline, remodel and revise my calendar, or have other people help out when I can't find the time. It's not impossible. I just need to raise more money, cut costs, eliminate waste, and set aside your proper projects to release fresh financial resources. All I need are creative ideas, and money will flow to imaginative and resourceful efforts. It's not impossible. I just have to think bigger. This will release a new burst of enthusiasm and energy. I must release my imagination from self-imposed limited to small thinking. It's not impossible. I just have to work harder. I must be willing to pay a higher price. I must increase my bid. I have to focus on whittling away what's restricting me. I can't take it easy. Be careful and succeed. It's not impossible. I just need more faith in myself, more self-confidence, and have to learn to manage my thinking, stop putting myself down, discard formerly fixed, locked in negative distortion and preconceptions like I'm too old, I'm too intelligent enough, not intelligent enough. No, no, no. I have to get the habit of thinking again. It's not impossible. I just have to take charge, dare to begin, decide to get started, wrestle leadership from forces and faces that don't have my interest as your first concern. It's not impossible. I just need to positive mental attitude. I've been reacting negatively. I will choose to believe that somehow, some way, sometime it might be possible. It's not impossible. I just need more faith. I just learn to believe in tomorrow. I shall extricate my thinking from the repressive influence of my past memories of failure and rejection. It's not impossible. I just must never quit. All I need is patience that will never run dry. Soon, traditional methods will now ineffective, will be replaced with new technological advances, and I'll be rewarded for my never believe in never attitude. I'll hold on tomorrow's replacing yesterday. Impossibilities vanish when a man and his God confront a mountain. It's not impossible. I just need to tap into a higher power. There are resources, sources of creative ideas I have yet to connect with. There are undiscovered forces waiting for me to discover and harness. So it's not impossible. I just can't do it alone. I need God. Power is not impossible if I'll have faith. Great things happen when man and God confront a mountain. I just have to let God and let God. Let go and let God. It's not impossible. I just have to stop being a stubborn. I have to compromise on my silent stipulations, my unspoken demands, my unwielding sets of givens. I have to have a wisdom to change my mind and the courage to declare that I simply need to practice humility, and doors will swing open. God will move in, mountains will move, I will be blessed. Once you have realized that it's not impossible, then you will be free to see the solutions. Then you can believe that there is a miracle around every corner. You can recognize that a blend in the road is not the end of the road. Look around the corner, keep going, don't give up. It might be possible if I can just learn how to do it. What appeared impossible yesterday might be possible today, and what appears impossible today might be possible tomorrow. That's because every day new techniques are learned, new breakthroughs in technologies are discovered. Sadly, such a breakthrough in medicine came too late for the father of a friend of mine, Dr. Raymond Beckering. He was a minister who installed me in the ministry 37 years back, and he was a pastor who asked me to come from Chicago to California and begin a new church. Dr. Beckering told me that his father died of diabetes just 1 month after, before insulin was discovered. Had his father lived just 30 days longer, he probably would have had it another 20, 30, maybe 40 years to his lifetime. I was reminded of how quickly change can occur when I spoke one day to Dr. John Tempston, the well-known investment counselor who was president of the trustees of Princeton Theology Seminary. Bob, do you realize how much change you and I have seen just in our lifetime? In 1912, Americans had no income tax, no Federal Reserve, no investment counselors, no mutual funds, no vitamin tablets, no refrigerator, no radios, no continental telephones, no traffic lights, no plastics, no man-made fibers, and no fluorescent lights. Much later, after the 1929 boom, Americans still had no social security, no unemployment insurance, no airmail, no airlines, no Xerox, no air conditioning, no antibiotics, no frozen foods, no television, no transistors, no lasers, and no nuclear energy. What could have imagined? Who could have imagined back that variety of new blessings in my lifetime? And who can imagine now the even greater new blessings in store for our children and our grandchildren? We live in a world in a time of spiral progress. We are better educated, better fed, and better housed than at any other time in the history of the world. Just look at how far we have come. In 1912, Emil von Wisches produced an effective immunization against diphtheria and tetanus. In 1921, Frederick Banting and Charles Best isolated the hormone insulin. In 28, discovered penicillin. In 29, developed the first electroencephalograph. In 38, a vaccine for yellow fever. 46, Nobel Prize for Medicine for his research on X-ray induced mutations. H.J. Muller. 1951, Andrew Thomas developed the heart-lung machine. The following year, Selman Waxman discovered streptomycin. 1954, the first effective polio vaccine. 67, the first successful heart transplant in South Africa. In 1982, Dr. William implanted the first permanent artificial heart in Barney Clark in Salt Lake City. In 1983, laser surgery became the method of choice for eye operations and removal of spinal and brain tumors. Beautiful. More than half of the scientists who ever lived are alive today. More than half of the discoveries in new natural sciences have been made in this century. Discovery and invention have not stopped or even slowed down. Who can imagine what will be discovered and research continues to accelerate? Each discovery reveals new mysteries. The more we learn, the more we realize how ignorant we were in the past and how much more we still have to discover. You probably are not fully aware of your own strengths. Your net worth may actually have increased, your sphere of influence enlarged. Your network of friends may have actually grown. Things are possible or within the range of possibility of year today that would not have been quite unthinkable not long ago. What I think of how far we have come and how far we still have to go, I believe that anything is possible. In time we will learn the answers, in time we will discover the breakthroughs, in time we will see the impossible turn into possible. It might be possible if I can solve some problems. The most impossible task you can imagine is never totally impossible. If you can just learn to solve some of the problems that are standing in your way. I recently traveled by ship through Panama Canal. I was looking forward to the experience, for I have always looked up to the canal as one of the world's great accomplishments. The French tried for 19 years to build it. They lost millions of dollars and hundreds of lives in the process. Eventually, they gave up the endeavor altogether. Then the Americans gave it a try. They decided that the solution was to create locks that would raise and lower the water level to her ship pass. The accomplishment was incredible. It was moving experience to ride a ship through the masterfully constructed canal. Look at your impossibility as a problem that is to be solved. If the problem appears too big, then you may need to break it up in several small problems. Walter Burke, the president of McDonnell Aircraft Corporation of the President Kennedy, called him and said, "We want to put a man on the moon. What we needed was, in order to make such an impossibility become a reality, we would need to develop a rocket booster big enough to release the spacecraft from gravitation." As an engineer, he learned that a big problem was never one single problem. So the first thing he did was ask himself, what are the different problems that altogether comprise the main problem? He carefully divided the problem into about 20 problems. Of those problems, he then decided which ones he could tackle himself and which one he could need help with, until he got to the point where he was only one problem left: the spacecraft that would defy gravity and go into orbit. Walter said, "That's the happy phase. At that point, I can focus all my energies on that one remaining problem, and when I focus everything on one problem, I know it's just a matter of time before we can crack it." Well, of course, the rest is history. They solved the problem. In 1969, Neil Armstrong became the first man to walk on the moon. It might be possible if I can raise some more money. Money is not the answer to all problems, but it is surprisingly how many problems are caused by lack of funds. Too many dreams are killed simply because of financial reports, and too many lives are ruined by bankruptcy. So if you are tempted to give up and quit, ask yourself, would it be possible if I had enough money? What could I do if funds were not an issue? It's an amazing how someone with a possibility thinking person can always come along and raise money when it's considered by experts to be out of the question. Sybil Brand is one of the most remarkable women in Los Angeles County. Her offices are filled with awards. She is over 80 years old and considered one of the leading volunteers in America. She has served as the fundraising chairman of the biggest fundraiser in California. In fact, Hope once said about Sybil, I can't do fundraising anymore because Sybil has got them all. Sybil got involved in volunteer service when she was 5 years old. The doorbell rang one day and the Sybil answered. The man standing there said, little girl, is your mother home? Yes, answered little Sybil. She ran to her mother and said, Mama, somebody wants to see you. He says he's hungry. Can't we give him our store? This inauspicious start led to her tremendous work that have earned her over 2,000 awards. But she is most noted for her work with the Sybil Brand Institute in California, Institute of County Jail for women ages 18 to older, which today houses over 2,000 women. Sybil happened to visit the jail one day and was horrified to overcome their conditions. She decided to be a doer and build a jail, and she didn't stop there. She still goes to the jail and visits the women every 3 weeks and has a Christmas party for them every year. At that party, she personally hands each inmate the Christmas gift. The prisoners love Sybil. They hug her and write her letters thanking her. They call her Lady Bountiful. Through her years, I have come to see that no one ever has a money problem. There's always an idea problem. There are always countless ways to come up with the money in a responsible, honest way. It might be possible if I can think bigger. We all need to think bigger. I would dare to say that it is our limited thinking that creates many of our problems. So many impossibilities can be swept away when they are unmasked as just short-sightedness or limitations in our thinking. All of us can learn from George and Greg Price. They are twins, they are millionaires, they are famous, they are successful, happy, fulfilled, and of this is nothing short of a miracle when you consider the fact that they are 3 feet tall and have obstacles that are in the state's chair to overcome. John and Greg were abandoned by their natural parents in the hospital when they were born. Then, when it was diagnosed that they were not able to grow to full height, it took 9 months for the state to find them a home that would accept both of them. Fortunately, a wonderful loving Christian home was found. They were twins receiving the nurturing that would help them become the extraordinary men they are today. John and Greg suffered another blow when their foster parents died and the boys were in the 11th grade. Not long after that, John and Greg got involved in real estate. They started speaking. 1979 were the heard by staff members of the television program Real People. They were impressed by the 2 young men who were 3 feet tall, telling everybody else to think big. Real People. Later they put into television series. They continued to be as an extremely successful and international speaking circuit. Dr. Skriller, a lot of people look at Greg and me and say that we are lucky. We spell luck, work. We find that the harder we work, the luckier we get. You see, everybody in one sense or another is short in some area of his life. Some people like Greg and me are short in stature, others are short in money. Most of us are short of experience, but I think that perhaps the best example of a short person happened some 3,000 years ago in Israel when a teenager named David had without a Philistine bully named Goliath. Of course, you know the Bible says that David reached into his bag, took out a stone and slung it and hit a giant on his forehead so that he fell forward to the ground. But you know there are giants in our world that need slaying too. Giants such as prejudice, negative thinking, lack of self-confidence and self-pity. It may be like David. Some of us don't think we have a proper ammunition to deal with the giants of our day, but I think all of us need to summon up our courage, reach deep within ourselves, pull out our stones and hurl them toward the giants of our age. You see, it doesn't take much of a person to become a success, it just takes all of a person has. Greg added, John and I could not have accomplished all we have If it weren't for the strong religious foundation that our parents were able to instill in us, people look at us and say that we are success. But John and I believe that the real secret of success is being happy doing whatever it is you're doing. I think John and I are probably two of the happiest people you have ever met, because we don't look at our situation as being a problem. You see, a lot of people make excuses for the situation they find themselves in. You have to take whatever situation you are left with and make the most of it. Certainly make the most of their situation. They are happy. They are not bitter. They are successful. Why? Because they have sent out this message of love, positive humor, and inspiration to millions of people. Is it any wonder that love, admiration, and other rewards should come back to them? It might be possible if I can work hard, just a little harder. Louis Neisser, one of the greatest lawyers of the 20th century, taught me the magic of another word. He said, every year I lecture to the law students at Yale and Harvard, and I always tell those students, I will teach you one word. That word will turn the dull mind into the bright mind. It will burn the bright mind into the brilliant mind. It will turn the brilliant person into the steadfast person. That word opens the doors for you. That word will roll out red carpets for you. That word will connect you to some of the most beautiful and powerful people in the world. That word will give you every person's success. That miracle magic word is work. A positive attitude toward work works wonders. Beautiful. One of my trips to Srinagar, I ordered a gazebo. They have never heard of such thing in this remote city between China and Pakistan. Impossible. Nevertheless, I sat down and drew the plans. Oh, we can do that. What will it cost? Will you make a personal check? Again, impossible. Just then, I saw the owner's desk a copy of Time magazine. It happened to be an issue with my picture in it. Picked up the magazine and showed him my picture. You can trust me, I'm in here. Wide-eyed, the woodcutter read the story of the Beverly self-concert that we held at the opening of the cathedral. The article stated that even Frank Sinatra had bought a seat. You know Frank Sinatra, I'll take your check. 8 months later, the gazebo was delivered, etched in intricate carvings of the worker's name, his address, Srinagar, Kashmir, India, and then this quote, our work is our worship. Anything is possible if you have a positive attitude towards work. Work will make the dream come true, and more often than not, you will find that the work was fun. You enjoyed it. It didn't drain you. It revitalized you. You felt younger, renewed, and more importantly, it gave you a sense of accomplishment. You were proud of who you were and what you did. You committed yourself to your dream, and in the process to God. It might be possible if I can find someone to help me. Dr. Mikhail Bakri is one of the most successful physicians living today. He will undoubtedly go down in the history books as one of the most innovative doctors in our generation. There isn't an operating room in the country that doesn't use instruments that bear the name Dick Bakri. There's a hospital that is in heaven, intensive care unit. Intensive care unit was started by Dr. Bakri in 1953. At that time, there were great objections to it, so only by the doctors, but also by the nurses, because there was a critical period immediately after the operation. You have to have highly trained personnel who were able to follow the patients closely. They had to be watched minute to minute, 24 hours a day. Fortunately, the administrator of the hospital agreed with Dr. Bakri, and he set up an intensive care unit solely for his patients. It was so successful that after the doctor began to say, I would like to have my patients in there too. Consequently, over the next few years, they had to expand the unit to take care of these other doctors and their patients. Interestingly enough, they forgot about the earlier operation. The intensive unit care became the integral part of the cardiac division of hospitals and soon spread to all wards of all hospitals in the country and even abroad. How many lives, how many human hearts have your hands held in your 40 plus years? I asked him. Oh, well over 50,000. When I heard that number, I was sure that he had to be exaggerating. 50,000 hearts seemed impossible, but then Dr. Bakri invited me to witness one of the surgeries. He led me into the viewing dome that hovered over 4 operating rooms, in which I could see 4 surgeries taking place simultaneously. A different team of the nurses and doctors in each room worked on a surgical procedure. Supervising all 4 of these operations, floating from room to room, was Dr. Belly. I could see that 50,000 surgeries was hardly an exaggeration. If anything, it was an understatement. Later, I experienced my amazement to him and my admiration for his ability to multiply his efforts through the help of others. He responded, well, I have an expression I often use in the operating room. If I just had a third hand, I wouldn't need you at all.